Brad Marchand is an interesting Boston sports figure. He started playing hockey as a kid in Nova Scotia in a suburb of Halifax. From a very young age, Brad played with anger. He's been criticized and labeled by fans as a pest. A pest in hockey terms is a player who tries to get under the skin of their opponent either physically or verbally. He would try to marry his skill with his fury, but let's be honest, the antics he pulled became the thing people remembered. He even inherited the name Rat, which was held by the past Bruins legend Ken Linseman. After winning the Stanley Cup in 2011, President Obama even mentioned Marchand and his play style in his speech while the Bruins visited the White House, which resulted in a new nickname. He is a very polarizing player, especially outside of Boston. In 2020, Brad Marchand was voted the dirtiest player in the NHL. And in 2022, a more positive survey result was released where he won the, quote, the player who least like to play against, but would like to have on your own team. Brad may never need an excuse to go after certain players, but whenever a teammate was ever messed with or needed backup, you could always expect Brad to be the first one there for any of them. Despite being Canadian, I think Brad is someone who embodies the Boston mindset more than any other player. Watching Brad Marchand's early career, where it felt like he was quick to react, short-fused, it could prompt some Challenge fans to think of a different Bostonian who was the same way in their early career. In 2007, the Challenge decided to revert back to a two-team format when they completed the first trilogy in its history, Inferno 3. We were back to a good guys versus badasses narrative. Again, there should be no question which team CT was on.
CT?
DM was absent from the season, so CT was off to fend for himself. To be honest, this looked to be a potentially strong season for him. He thrived on team formats, his team was stacked, and he was in great shape. But as we hear in a confessional, he's frustrated.
I'm getting tired of going to the end and not making any money.
He was even taking some of his frustrations out on his teammates when their roughhousing went a bit too far.
You guys are teammates. It's our first night in this house.
With that anger lingering in his mind and one too many drinks, it led to his second straight disqualification.
CT, dude.
CT was his own biggest enemy in this situation. He had to know the other team would look at any transgression or any stumble to get production to get him off the show. The terrible part is the bad had an impeccable season with only 2 men from the team losing eliminations. Realistically, this season could have been a cakewalk for CT to make the final and get his first win. Instead, he was right back on a plane before the game even began. Derek would enter the game, take CT's place, and win his first challenge season along with Evelyn, Janelle, Kenny, and Tanya. Abram won his second title. CT would be back on the next season, Season 15, The Gauntlet 3. Like Gauntlet 2, the cast was split into 2 teams, veterans and rookies. The most well-known names in the challenge up to that point were all on the veterans team. They had more finalists, more champions, more muscle, more brain power, more everything. From the very first episode, they showed the rookies that they were ready to compete by winning the Better Bedrooms in a tug-of-war challenge. It felt like the only team that could beat the veterans was themselves. In the next daily challenge, CT played a 1v1 overtime match against Derek McRae in Pinata Pit. CT won, proving to his whole team that he is one of the best, most athletic, and most valuable players. The veterans team won the first 5 challenges. Too bad, all of their winning couldn't stop the drama from plaguing the team. Early on, Robin voiced concerns to Katie about how there wasn't prize money attached to the daily challenges. Without that monetary motivation, what's stopping the men from throwing challenges on women elimination days to get rid of them all? It became a legitimate concern when one night during a house party, CT brought up strategically throwing challenges.
We talking about how people want to start strategically throwing missions.
Throughout the season, he'd call the women the weakest links over and over again in the confessionals.
Too many girls on our team, they just continue to get in our way and slow us down.
He'd even bring up trimming the fat in front of them just to get a reaction.
Girls are starting to get nervous because they know that they're the weakest link on our team.
Multiple players, mainly the veteran women, voiced their anger about his demeanor towards them, and there was no exemption to who would get his attitude, whether it was players he didn't trust like Coral and Katie, or someone he cared about like Diem.
When do I get mine? Yeah, right, walk away then.
It's interesting listening to Diem say CT couldn't stop talking about the game. That proves to me that he was sick and tired of losing. In his challenge career, he felt like the best player, yet he had nothing to show for it. No title and no money. This being his 5th season, he wasn't going to let anyone or anything stand in his way of getting the prize money and being crowned a challenge champion. The first time the veterans team lost a challenge was in episode 3 in the Blind Man's Maze. It was a men's gauntlet day where the rookie team voted in Evan and the veterans team had to go deliberate on who to send in against him. On the way to the deliberation, CT talks to Evan about voting in Johnny. He was one of the smaller guys. It sounds like he had an ankle injury from a prior challenge.
He's gonna blow my ankle.
And he was one of the more recent additions to the cast, having completed 1 full season the year prior. I'm sure Adam would have been the vote if the rookies didn't give him immunity from this elimination. Johnny and Casey fought to have Eric voted into the gauntlet instead, but it was no dice. Once Evan agreed to face Johnny, everyone gave him what he wanted. Evan was viewed as one of the strongest and best players on the veterans team next to CT. They didn't want to risk sending him into the elimination round against one of the physically biggest players. The decision was made. Johnny went into the sliders elimination against Evan and lost.
I play a game and I'm the only one who's open about it.
It's gonna come back to bite you.
The veteran team would get back to their dominant ways by winning the next 2 challenges before throwing the assembly required challenge. The looming threat of the men throwing challenges was always lingering in the minds, but it finally happened in the 9th challenge. There were so many moving pieces, literally, that the women couldn't tell that the men sabotaged them.
I cannot believe that the girls cannot notice that I run around this pyramid 20 times and haven't done anything.
The rookies protected Casey and voted in Coral. With Casey off limits, the next best vote for the veterans was Beth. The problem is, Coral told multiple people she specifically didn't want to face Beth in the elimination given the weight difference.
Don't you dare put me up against Beth. Don't you dare let that happen.
To Evan's credit, he did try to speak up on Coral's behalf. It was everyone else who didn't care what Coral wanted.
Beth, where's my...
Everybody votes for me.
Beth faced off against Coral and Coral won, but she was furious. After the veteran men threw 1 Women's Day challenge, it was only a matter of time before they started throwing more of them. The next instance of the veterans throwing a challenge was in episode 7 in Over the Edge. CT was blatant. He didn't care if he was subtle or not. Coral was offended by their ploy to throw the challenge so they could vote her in against Evelyn that she quit on the spot. I know Coral disqualified herself out of principle, but I can't help but think this is exactly what the veterans team wanted. In the same episode, both Coral and Casey were gone from the game. It was 2 women gone in 1 afternoon. They threw the chill out challenge in episode 8. Many of the players jumped in the ice bath and quickly ran into the locker room to ensure that at least 1 more veteran woman would be eliminated before the final. Katie lost against Paula in sliders. Now I've spent a lot of this section talking about the men throwing challenges to get rid of the women, which really was the major storyline of the season. The thing is, there was another story at play here. Throughout the season, the rookies were upset by the collusion between the real-world Austin players, Johanna, Nehemiah, Rachel M, and Melinda, held 4 spots on the rookies team, with Danny as a liaison for them on the veteran side. Because of this dynamic, Frank would try to gain numbers to help keep him and Jillian safe. One person Frank got close to on the veterans team was Adam King, and it wasn't a secret either. Nothing really came from their friendship until around the time of the final men's gauntlet. One night, Frank decided to throw a Hail Mary by antagonizing CT in an attempt to get him so mad that he loses control. Adam, though, inserted himself anyway by getting in between both men to squash the heat. CT clowned on Adam, saying that he was protecting Frank and felt his gesture was all for the cameras. To CT, this felt reminiscent of what happened on their real-world season when Adam went to apologize to the bar patron rather than have his back.
Back up, Junior, you still doing the same thing you did in Paris.
I truly believe CT never forgot that moment, and it was the catalyst for why he would never be able to fully trust Adam. This messy situation gave Frank and in to make a deal that if Adam throws the next challenge, Frank would convince his rookie team to protect him and send in CT. To Adam, that proposition sounded too good to be true. And it turned out it was. Adam helped his team lose the well-balanced challenge in hopes Frank would keep his end of the bargain. But during the rookies' deliberation, everyone else had a different idea in mind. They wanted to save Big Easy as they saw him as the biggest anchor on the opposing team. After protecting Eric, they'd vote in Adam, viewing him as a valuable player for the other team. The decision caught Adam by surprise. Good thing is, he went up against Danny, who never wins eliminations. The final lineups were locked. The stats in Gauntlet 3 looked lopsided, with the veterans team having won 11 out of 16 challenges, with the potential of winning more if they weren't so determined to throw a handful of them. The rookies were major underdogs. The day of the Gauntlet 3 final, TJ went over the rules with the players. Nothing seemed too out of the ordinary. TJ blew the horn and the players were off. First, the players swam to shore. Big Easy was dazed by the end of this first stage. There was no stopping as his team chained up for the run to the next checkpoint. Eric was on the verge of collapsing the entire run, but the team didn't let up. More specifically, CT didn't let up. He was chained next to Eric to help motivate him. Anger, frustration, and desperation filled his words to get Eric to keep moving.
You gonna quit? No, to run!
They were chugging along until Eric finally crumbled. With Eric gone, the veterans team decided to keep going. Even with the prolonged delay, they not only caught up with the rookie team, but surpassed them. In the final test, the veterans team dug out their chest and hoisted their flag in celebration.
And those with $300,000!
TJ approached them with a grave look on his face. Going back to the beginning of the final, the one rule that stood out was
A team can only win if all the players cross the finish line.
this is a rule specific for Gauntlet 3 and really Gauntlet 3 only. As we had seen players be medically disqualified in a final in previous seasons, yet the team was still able to compete and get paid out. For example, in the Gauntlet, Coral was rushed to the hospital for a spider bite and her real-world team were all paid out their $12,000 and still could have won the season if they crossed the finish line without her. Even after Gauntlet 3, both Abram and Sarah were medically disqualified from the final, but the gray team still could have won, and they were all paid out for getting second place. Yes, even Abram and Sarah. I have a theory that because the Gauntlet 3 final was sponsored by the US Army, they added in the rule that there should be no man or woman left behind. I understand that this was clearly stated and each season has distinct rules, but it's tough to think that if this had been any other season, the veterans would have won. This could have been Paula, Evan, Brad, and CT's first win. And it could have etched in Diem and Robin's names in the challenge history books as challenge champions. But really, it's not just this rule that stopped the veterans team from winning. The men on the team have to carry the lion's share of this final loss. They were so worried about the women holding them back and slowing them down when the person they should have been worried about was Big Easy. But all the men were too worried they'd lose to him. Evan, at the reunion, stated he truly believes he wouldn't have made the final if he faced off against Eric instead of Johnny in the elimination.
Do you wish that you'd had Johnny instead of Eric for that final challenge?
I think if I would have gone against Eric in the Gauntlet, I would have gone home.
This season proved that so many variables are at play to win the challenge. It takes skill, strategy, politics, social game, luck, and taking risks. If any one of those go askew, your whole game could go up in smoke. CT was dumbfounded. He had made it to a few finals and lost, but never had he made it to the final, finished first, and still lost. If he was frustrated in previous seasons for going far and not winning, that anger would only grow after season 15. In 2008, shortly after the Gauntlet 3 wrapped up, MTV threw a big Real World Awards bash to commemorate the 20th season of The Real World. It was a big celebration in Hollywood, California, where they gathered cast members from all the Real World seasons at the time to take part in this major milestone for a show that transcended not just MTV, but reality TV as a whole. CT was there and hung out mainly with David Burns while also getting acquainted with other Real World contestants. He was nominated for the Hottest Male Award. It was a highly contested category that featured hunks like Alton, Brad, Danny, Eric, and more. Unfortunately, CT's losing streak kept building as John from the real-world Key West took home the fishbowl for the category. CT just couldn't get a win inside and outside of the show, and to be honest, this seemed like an award he could have easily taken home, but the real-world fans had a different opinion back in 2008. Well, no matter dwelling on it, CT would not be back for season 16 of the challenge, lucky him, but he would be back for season 17. The circumstances surrounding the Duel 2 created the perfect storm to don one of the most infamous nights in the challenge's history. The first thing that stood out was CT and DM had broken up. DM wasn't a fan of his treatment towards her on the Gauntlet 3. It made her rethink the relationship to where she felt they wouldn't work at that given time in their lives. She also had many aspirations and wanted to focus on possible career opportunities. It led to her telling CT that maybe in 5 years, when she's 30, that she'd be more serious about getting married. Maybe CT would be more serious by that time as well. It sounded like the breakup wasn't mutual. Next, there was a rumor spread around the house that CT and Siobhan. It's hard to deny looking at the tape, which makes them look suspicious coming out of the shadows. Neither of them confirmed this when each was questioned individually about it. CT is normally a private guy, so having something like this circulate in the house I'm sure was uncomfortable. Especially with his ex-girlfriend, whom he still had feelings for, was also in the house. Whether it was true or not, the news played telephone when it eventually got to DM. Naturally, she asked about the situation, but it sounded like she couldn't get a straight answer. She eventually talked to Adam, who said he didn't know if it was true, but he still took the opportunity to badmouth CT anyways.
Nobody likes that.
DM would get semi-confirmation from Katie. Shocked and hurt, DM confronted CT. In this hallway scene between them, I feel we see a glimpse of the real-world Paris CT. DM came into the conversation hot and accusatory.
Yeah, she came up to me. She goes, "We need to do something."
Whatever, you believe whatever you want.
I believe.
And for CT, that was enough for him to shut down.
I don't care. It's not even important to me.
But you know,
I'm not doing anything wrong.
I know, but
If pushed, he was going to say something hurtful back as a defense mechanism.
So what, you expect me to just sit around and act like I love you?
The good thing is he did walk away from the conversation, but the problem was being stuck in a room with Adam when he still was seeing red. I rewatched this camera footage a lot to where a few things stand out. The very first thing is that the camera catches CT in the room mid-conversation with Mark and Adam. The first intelligible sentence we hear is from Adam saying, "You want to talk to me now?" With CT responding, "Oh yeah." Combine this exchange with Robin walking out of the room mouthing BS directly at the camera. What was this in reference to? Maybe it was the exchange between CT and Adam prior to the camera's recording, or possibly Adam denies saying bad things about CT to DM. Or it could be CT denying being with Siobhan where Robin reacts this way. Both men then exchange some pleasantries.
Clown. I'm a clown? Yeah. You're a clown.
In the midst of them bumping chests, Adam almost falls onto Big Easy's bed. In an attempt to stay standing, Adam grabs onto CT.
Don't touch me.
Still, CT hadn't touched Adam. That is until Adam grabs a beverage can off a dresser and dumps the contents on CT's head. All CT did. There's a bit of a tussle in the room as everyone else tries to separate them and get control. Brad, Mark, Dunbar, Big Easy, and Derek McRae try to hold CT back in the room as Evan escorts Adam out of the house. At the reunion, the cast members talked about how production put all the pressure of stopping the situation on the cast. What now?
Is going down, production is going, "You guys break it up." They're like sitting there like 10 feet back on, "You guys do it."
I mean, you can hear Derek McRae pleading for production to get Adam off the property. If Adam is off the grounds, maybe CT would calm down. Nothing happened, and it became too much to hold CT back. Once in the courtyard, the ordeal continued. Adam ran back into the house. Evan and the other men tried to detour CT away, all while DM was being held in the doorway to keep her from going outside. All DM wanted to do was talk to him to try to calm him down. She felt responsible and wanted a chance to make things right. There was a lot on this show to spur on this moment, but the most important context actually came from outside the show. The departure date for the Challenge 17 cast to fly out to New Zealand was October 27, 2008. About 2 months earlier, tragedy struck the Tamburello family with the sudden and unforeseen passing of CT's older brother, Vincent Tamburello Jr. Vinny was the eldest of the Tamburello children. He was 5 years old when CT was born. According to Vincent Tamburello Sr.'s website, justiceforvinny.com, Vinny was a great big brother, citing that when CT would cry, Vinny would share his favorite toy with him, and his love for his siblings grew as the Tamburello family grew. On The Real World Paris, CT at one point talked about his family, more specifically his brother Vinny.
When I was growing up, I used to look up to my older brother a lot. People used to call me Little Vinny.
At the time, Vinny had moved out of the house to where CT didn't know if he would ever see his brother again. Luckily, in 2006, Vinny came back to live with the family, and in 2007, he and CT went to Vermont to work on restoring houses together. According to justiceforvinny.com, Vinny had his ups and downs in life like everyone else. The good thing is, whenever he needed his family's help, they were always there for him. Unfortunately, Vinny's plans of getting married and moving to Vermont by 2009 wouldn't come to fruition. I won't get into a ton of details as this isn't my story to tell, as this is CT's documentary. But it was tough reading through Vincent Tamburello Sr.'s account. He and his wife not only had to deal with the tragic loss of their son, but also got caught up in the years of dealing with the fallible law system, unmotivated attorneys, alleged witness perjuries, hearing multiple accounts of the night, and medical reporting. In 2011, while on Rivals, CT opened up to Laurel about his brother Vinny and what happened on the Duel 2. He admitted that the timing of going to New Zealand was bad, and he definitely wasn't in the right headspace.
This is my brother.
What happened to him?
He got... What? I was about to go to New Zealand to do the Duel 2, so I wasn't in the right state of mind.
Vincent Tamburello Sr. wrote a very extensive account of everything the Tamburello family went through during this very difficult time. I appreciate how informative, open, and vulnerable he was. Multiple times I found myself tearing up to the good memories he shared about Vinny and their family. I was angry and appalled by the injustices and hardships they had to face in a law system they felt was doing little to help their family for years. For CT to try to go through the process of dealing with his emotions of his brother's sudden passing, to then head halfway across the world to play a highly stressful game like the Challenge a few months later, had to feel intense. Then add on to it all, he was living with his ex-girlfriend during this really dark time in his life. This feeling from CT is evident as he gets into the car to leave the Duel 2 house when DM from the bushes tries to get his attention.
Thanks for nothing.
I didn't do anything.
No, of course you didn't. You shouldn't even be crying. It's not like it's 5 years later. Career first. Good luck with it.
CT's response is cold, to be careful not to show any emotion. But you can hear that he's not talking about that night in New Zealand. He's not talking about the show. At the Duel 2 reunion, the CT and Adam was a topic of discussion. Some players like Mark tried to jest about it.
It's a Mike Tyson moment right there.
While other cast members voiced concerns in not wanting anything like this to happen again.
I don't think that CT should ever be allowed back on a show. I'll openly say that. I think we say goodbye to him.
The next few years were a bit of an unknown about CT. There's a rumor that he was asked to be a part of Season 18 The Ruins, but once word got out, many players who agreed to be on The Ruins declared they wouldn't play if CT was there. I don't really know how true this is, but what we do know is that he wasn't on Season 18. He wasn't on Season 19, Fresh Meat 2, or on Season 20's final roster. The game went on without him. How long would be a fitting punishment for CT to be away from the show? How long could this indefinite absence go on for? No one could know for certain. Hell, maybe it would take some divine intervention to get him back on the show. Maybe it would take a way we had never seen before in an act of redemption that would transpose the negativity and fear from his last appearance and turn it into a new era for not just CT, but for the challenge. Hello, and thank you for watching this video. There was a lot that happened in this part 2 of the CT docu-series. As you could tell throughout the video, there was quite a bit that I felt I needed to blur or censor in hopes of keeping it advertiser friendly here on YouTube. But if you want to see the full unedited version, my true vision for this part 2 of the docu-series, you can check out that video right now. It's up on patreon.com/angelcakevids, available to the $3 and $5 tier patron. Over on Patreon, I'm afforded the ability to show the clips that I want to show all the needy, greedy details that I think is important to showing the full story of CT, which I'm unable to do over here on YouTube. So again, if you want to see the full unedited version of this part 2 video, please consider subscribing over to my Patreon at patreon.com/angelcakevids. If you sign up today, you will not only get access to the part 2 full unedited version, but you'll also get access to CT part 3, which covers seasons 20 through 26. It is a video that is nearly an hour long, covering CT's redemption arc, his first win, DM, and much, much more. So again, if you want to see any of this CT docu-series in their full unedited versions, all 3 are available over on my Patreon at patreon.com/angelcakevids, as well as you'll get a ton of other great exclusive content. Now, speaking of Patreon, I want to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because without you, this docu-series most likely would not be able to happen. So thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who is watching these parts and my videos. I'm working hard on the next part for the CT docu-series, but until then, peace.